So, guys, part of the resurgence of the Astros since June and onward has been that they've been doing it without most of their starters. Most of their starters have been on the IL. One of those guys is real close to returning. Justin Verlander is scheduled for one more rehab start, and that would seemingly put him in the rotation with the big club, maybe sometime middle of next week. Justin, in his first outing in rehab, his first rehab assignment, 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He said that he was happy with how he was throwing the ball, able to throw all pitches, but not necessarily happy with maybe his control yet. It's understandable as he's still ramping his way back up. So, guys, how do you expect and how do you project Verlander's return impacting this rotation?
He's an all-time great, but I think the expectations, even for Justin Verlander, have to be measured. He's 41 years old. He's coming back, joining a playoff drive after being out for 2 months. I know there's he should be really fresh. He's been out injured, and you can't convince me that the neck hasn't tied into the arm a little bit. So while he hasn't logged a whole bunch of innings, I don't think he's going to come back and be 7-inning Justin Verlander. I just think that the hope should be a solid cog in the engine, in the machine. With the 18 consecutive days starting Friday, Verlander makes the one more rehab start. I think that sets him up to pitch against Boston, either Tuesday, a night game, or then Wednesday's an afternoon game. I think the Astros look to go 3 full turns of a 6-man rotation, right? 18 days, 3 starts apiece. And then when you get the rare off day in September, you don't stay with the 6-man unless they're all pitching well. Right, you skip over someone who hadn't pitched well over the last couple of starts, and to me, that has to include even if it's Verlander. Right, you can't go by career achievement. This is a tough race with the Mariners, so I think it's a 3-start audition, if you will, to see how he looks and what you can hope for beyond that, because you're looking at 7 starts max, maybe 8, but I think 7 is the number once Verlander joins the rotation if he stays in it the rest of the way. And that's pitching on at least 5 days rest each time out.
I'm excited to see Verlander come back. I'm kind of with that idea. Hopefully, he's taken a long time to get back. He should be ready. We got reports he was in the mid-90s, so I think, Brandon, you're onto something at getting the control where he wants it, getting all that ramped up, facing big league hitting. There will be an adjustment there, but he is Justin Verlander. So I'm thinking what we're all hoping is he's going to come back and then carry this all the way through the postseason if they're lucky enough to get there and be the guy that they counted on. They're paying Justin Verlander a lot of money to come in and do a job. And I think just him returning and what you're seeing from Spencer Arrighetti and what you're seeing from Hunter Brown and even Kikuchi, like all these guys are kind of feeding off each other and pitching really well. You wonder, if Verlander comes back and shows you something, if it just gives everybody a little more juice, like, wow, maybe we can have a rotation similar to the Mariners and have that be one of the strengths of our ball club. And obviously the offense is a lot better for the Astros. So I'm optimistic. I don't think Verlander's coming back if he's not ready. So we'll find out. He's going to go out there and do his thing. And, man, if he's hitting the mid-90s and that slider's working, and he started working in that changeup a little bit before he got injured, curveball's always been good. I expect Verlander to come in. And, yeah, I don't think he's going to be the guy that goes 7 innings of 1-run ball anymore. I think he's kind of maybe in that Hunter Brown category. You'll hope to get 6 innings out of him of really dominant stuff. But we'll see. He is 41, but he's Justin Verlander too. We know, Nolan Ryan, I know he's an outlier, but he was really good in his 40s. Maybe Verlander can muster some of that himself.
In theory, it should be a meritocracy. Charlie, you mentioned, JV needs to play himself into the situation here, but does Joe Espada have I don't want to say courage, because I don't want to make it sound like he's scared of excluding JV out of the 5-man rotation, but that's a big call, because like JV is a Hall of Famer and you are paying him a lot of money. We saw how they handled the Jose Abreu situation. Now, granted, that was earlier in the year, so you had a little bit more runway to deal with. This is at the back end of the year. You're in that tight race. You don't have the ability to carry a pitcher in a 5-man rotation that's not pulling his weight. But do you foresee the Astros making that call?
I don't think Espada will run and hide from it. Remember at Wrigley Field early in the season when Espada was 6 weeks into the job and Verlander was struggling to get through 5 innings. Pitch count was rising, and he got to 4 2/3, just 1 out away. And here came the rookie manager saying, it's time. Right? Verlander with the delayed start to his season, they felt he wasn't built up to go beyond where he was. And Espada's well aware that Verlander's well aware. At that time, the 300 pursuit was much more plausible than it is at this point. But Espada made the move that he felt was in the best interest of the ball club, not just for that very minute, but looking a little wider than that. And after the 8 days off, 18 consecutive days before one off, they have a couple sprinkled in before another stretch of 16 consecutive games. I think you're not going to stick with a 6-man rotation. And Kikuchi needs a little more to his Astros resume beyond the first 2 excellent starts. But if Brown keeps humming and Valdez keeps pitching well and Arrighetti is really on to something, unless Ronel Blanco is just really going to tail way, way off, I think that they consider maybe piggybacking a couple of guys. There's not use for 6 starters in a rotation when you have a day off, unless you want guys pitching every 7th day. So who might they decide if Verlander starts, but he's at 87 pitches in the 4th inning, is one of their starters the guy that they say, hey, you're better suited to be the bridge guy to the back end of the bullpen. But, Verlander, as amazing as he's been, right? He wasn't awesome early this season before he went down. He's also not a Supreme Court justice, right? The job's not his for life or until retirement if exigent circumstances dictate the decision needs to be made to go with someone else. Verlander, of course, is still, we presume, the upside of rendering this all moot, and he's 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, and then, of course, he's staying in the rotation.
Yeah, and I wonder if Verlander is ready, and he's ramped up, and he can give you what you expect out of him. Well, keep in mind, he had a 3.95 ERA this season before he went down. We have some starters on the rotation with an over 5 ERA. Spencer Arrighetti, I know he's been fantastic as of late, but I also wonder too with, they're talking about too many innings for Blanco. He's never done this before. Arrighetti's never pitched, this many innings coming down the stretch. You wonder, would they skip Blanco in the rotation just to take some innings off him? And, maybe it's not all going to be just performance based. Maybe it's going to be hey, we want to make sure you're good to go when we need you the most down the stretch. So I'll be interested to see, would they skip Verlander, or maybe they want to skip Blanco, or maybe they'd want to skip Arrighetti. Some big decisions there for Espada, but you want all your guys humming and ready to go down the stretch with the playoffs coming up. And of course, it's going to be a tight race. You're going to need them all to perform well. So I wonder if it'll be the innings thing that kind of, pushes Espada in one direction or the other.
After the 18 days off, they oddly have a Tuesday off, the day after Labor Day. Then they play 5 days. Then they're off the Monday after that. So there's no use for 6 starters over that stretch, 5 games with an off day on either end. So it has to be a performance-driven decision unless the Mariners are about to collapse. And while they faltered really badly for a month and a half, the Mariners ship seems to be stabilized and fronted by that rotation and the schedule advantage they have over the Astros. I'll be very surprised if Seattle fades. In fact, I think now it may take 90 wins for the Astros to get this division, which turned out to be the exact magic number with the tiebreaker to get it over the Rangers last season.
Well, another part of this narrative about Houston fighting for most of the season with a hand tied around their back has been the absence of Kyle Tucker. And that's been what's been amazing of seeing them be able to fight their way back to the top of the division, is that they've done it entirely without Tucker. Both Joe Espada and Dana Brown are optimistic about the stride that Tucker is now making in his rehab. It seems that we may see him back by the end of the month, fingers crossed. How does his return and extending this lineup hide some of those weaker parts that we've seen, like a Chas McCormick or a Myers, because you're pushing everything down?
Kyle Tucker was a top 5 MVP candidate when he went down. He doesn't have to be anywhere close to that guy upon returning to fortify the Astros lineup, because it's been one failed bat after another. McCormick and Myers and Loperfido and Cabbage Right? Pedro Leon got his brief little cameo, and they've gotten quality overall output from none of them. So Kyle Tucker at performance for Kyle Tucker would be a significant upgrade. And if Kyle Tucker draws walks at the career-shatteringly high level that he was earlier this season, as another guy to create more traffic in the lineup, and I think coming back, he probably goes in the 5 spot, that you split Diaz with the two lefties. But I'll believe it when I see it. They've been optimistic how many times over the last 2 months. But yes, Kyle Tucker, he doesn't have to be great. And he's a boon to the Astros cause.
Yeah, just looking at the numbers right here, the Astros are 9th in OPS in baseball right now, and that's without having Kyle Tucker for a good portion of the season. I expect that to go up. And then I also wonder if this wrinkle of Yordan playing left field, is Tucker going to be 100% coming back, or are they maybe going to want to DH him from time to time as he's, getting back, and maybe they don't want to push him too hard and play him in right field every single day. You hope that he's only coming back if he's 100%, but this has been such a long, mysterious injury. Who knows? So it just made me think, I wonder if we might see Tucker in that DH spot a little bit, as they're just trying to be careful with him. And what a great development it is that you can use Yordan regularly in left. And because Jake Myers is such a good defensive center fielder, kind of gives you some cushion at the other outfield positions, because you have somebody that's so talented in center field. So that'll be something to watch for. I hope they don't rush Tucker back. And I know that seems strange to say because it's taken so long, but clearly this was a really serious injury.
I think there's very little doubt that Kyle Tucker is not playing right field every day upon his return. And unless the doctors say, hey, you're really compounding the risk, if it's been that bad bruise, if you come back even 2 days too early, the chances exponentially grow of a full-blown fracture occurring in there. As long as he's cleared medically, give me 70% of Kyle Tucker, because that's better than 100% of everyone else who's been that third outfielder in his absence.
Kendall Graveman has flown under the radar as he's been rehabbing this season, but his camp continues to be optimistic that he could be available by the end of the season. We've spoken about the volatility at middle relief for this team. Does Kendall Graveman give you anything? Does that make you any more optimistic about solidifying the middle of your bullpen?
Yeah, it was an interesting development to hear, since his season was declared dead in January after he had the surgery. So we have the sort of the under the radar ex-Mariner relievers pining to join the Astros cause to fight it out over the Mariners, right? Penn Murphy, who the Astros claim, knowing that he was injured, maybe could come back late in the year, right? He is within range of maybe getting back in September. Look, neither guy would be pitching important innings. Brian King's actually given them some good work as a lefty reliever. Caleb Ferguson so far. So where really would be the role for Graveman or Murphy? Credit to both for the diligence to even having it as a possibility. I'm sure Graveman wants to get back on the mound before he enters free agency to tell teams, hey, I could pitch in a big league game. But I couldn't see a consequential role for either of them unless the Astros get back into the bullpen injury issues.
I mean, if Graveman's right, Dana Brown traded for him. He's come here twice, and gave up Corey Lee to get him, and then we get that news that he's not going to be pitching anymore, at least for this season. That was the thought. And then not long after that, they go get Hader. So I think they had a lot invested in Graveman being a part of the back end of this bullpen. It just hasn't worked out because of injury. But when he's healthy and right, he's a good back end of the pen reliever. He throws hard. He's got some nasty stuff. It's just, coming back from a shoulder injury, he hasn't pitched all year. It's just hard to count on that. It's a numbers game. Taylor Scott's been really good, but man, if Graveman could give them something, that would be spectacular. It's just, can he do it? He's just now kind of getting going. We're about midway through August. Not a lot of runway for him to get back if he's going to do it.
Well, we'll leave it there. That's it for this episode of Stone Cold Stros. If you listen on podcast and you enjoy the show, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Charlie, Josh, and I will catch you next week, but you don't have to wait that long to get your Houston sports fix. All you have to do is subscribe to this channel, Sports Map Houston, and our other YouTube channel, Sports Map Texans on YouTube, and we'll have more content for you during the week, including a live Texans post-game reaction to Giants-Texans this Saturday. Thanks for listening. Until next time, go Stros.